Arjun Malhotra and Priya Rana looked like a perfect couple from the outside, successful, admired, and ready to begin a new life together. But behind their smiles had secrets, doubts, and a single mistake that would ignite a tragedy no one saw coming. What began as a celebration of love would soon unravel into a horrifying chain of events triggered by one email, one test result, and one moment that changed everything forever. Arjun Malhotra's life in Toronto had been slowly taking shape in a way he never expected. After moving from Mumbai with hopes of building a better future, he spent years adjusting to a new country, new weather, and new responsibilities. He balanced long work hours with evening classes to improve his career prospects. Over time, he built a routine that felt stable and safe, even if a bit lonely. Everything changed the day he met Priya Rana at a multicultural festival held downtown. She was volunteering at a health booth, offering first aid support with her usual confident smile. Her warm nature immediately caught Arjun's attention, and he found comfort in how easily she spoke to him. Their first meeting was brief, but it marked the beginning of something that would grow far beyond either of their expectations. As the months passed, Arjun and Priya began spending more time together exploring the city, trying new foods, and sharing stories about their families. Priya talked proudly about her roots in Punjab, while Arjun spoke about his childhood in Mumbai. Their cultural differences never became an issue. Instead, they strengthened the bond they were forming. Friends quickly noticed how they seemed to balance each other. Arjun was calm and patient, while Priya was lively and adventurous. Together, they felt complete. Their relationship developed quickly, fueled by shared dreams of building a future filled with love, stability, and family. Within a year, Arjun decided he was ready to take the next step. He introduced Priya to his parents during a video call, and they instantly welcomed her. Priya's family also approved, delighted that she had found someone responsible and caring. The plans for a traditional wedding in India started soon after, filling both families with excitement. At this point, there were no signs of the chaos that would later tear everything apart. For everyone watching, Arjun and Priya represented a perfect modern couple whose love story seemed. Just weeks before the wedding, life shifted in a way neither Arjun nor Priya expected. Priya told Arjun she was pregnant, and the news filled him with a mix of excitement and nervousness. He imagined himself becoming a father, building a warm home, and taking on new responsibilities with pride. This moment felt like a sign that everything in his life was finally aligning. Their families celebrated the news with even more enthusiasm, believing the upcoming marriage had now become even more meaningful. Blessings and congratulations flowed from relatives, and everyone spoke about the bright future awaiting the couple. As the celebrations grew, small yet noticeable changes began appearing in Priya's behavior. She became distant at times, lost in her thoughts, and often avoided discussing her pregnancy in detail. When asked about the due date or her recent medical visits, she changed the subject, claiming she felt tired or overwhelmed by the wedding preparations. Arjun noticed the shift, but chose not to question her too deeply. He assumed pregnancy stress was affecting her and believed it was best to support her quietly. Still, a subtle uneasiness crept into his mind, something he tried hard to ignore. Meanwhile, the families focused on organizing the grand wedding in India. Invitations were sent out, decorations were planned, and travel arrangements were finalized. Arjun remained busy with work and preparations, but Priya's growing silence lingered at the back of his mind. Her mood swung unpredictably. Some days she was cheerful and engaged, while on others she seemed withdrawn and unusually tense. Though Arjun wanted to comfort her, he sensed a personal barrier he couldn't cross. The pregnancy, meant to bring joy, instead introduced an invisible distance that neither fully understood. Their love story continued moving forward, unaware that hidden secrets were slowly beginning to surface beneath the surface of their happy plans. Rumors began spreading quietly in Priya's old neighborhood months before the wedding. What started as small whispers slowly turned into confident claims from people who said they knew her past. According to the gossip, Priya had once been deeply involved with someone before moving to Canada. Some even suggested the relationship had ended badly, though no one could provide any real proof. Most of the talk was vague and exaggerated, but in tightly connected communities, even the smallest rumor traveled fast. Relatives who barely knew Priya repeated what they heard, turning speculation into dramatic stories. None of this reached Arjun at first, but the atmosphere around Priya's family gatherings began to shift. When Arjun finally heard bits of the story, he dismissed them immediately. He believed people often resented successful young women, and Priya was exactly the type to attract jealousy. Her confidence, independence, and charm made her a target for baseless criticism. Arjun trusted her completely, and he held on to that trust as firmly as he could. Still, a small voice of doubt lingered in the corners of his mind. He never confronted Priya about the rumors because he didn't want to cause unnecessary stress during the wedding preparations. Instead, he told himself that every couple faced challenges and that gossip was a normal part of community life. Everything changed when Arjun received an anonymous email late one evening. The sender's identity was hidden, and the message was short but alarming. It warned him that Priya's baby might not be his and claimed she was hiding a painful truth from her past. Although the message contained no evidence, its timing created an instant wave of fear inside him. Arjun tried to convince himself it was a cruel prank, yet the words refused to leave his thoughts. The seed of suspicion that had once been tiny began to grow, wrapping itself tightly around his trust and creating cracks he could no longer ignore. After arriving in India for the wedding week, Arjun tried to bury the anxiety that had followed him since the anonymous email. The house was filled with relatives, laughter, music, and wedding chaos, but none of it could quiet the thoughts running through his mind. Priya looked radiant and excited, yet Arjun noticed a deep tension behind her smile. She often avoided long conversations, claiming fatigue or busy schedules. Every time she excused herself, Arjun felt the doubt inside him tighten its grip. He wanted to trust her, but the uneasiness had grown too strong to ignore. During a routine pre-travel medical checkup arranged by the families, Arjun saw an opportunity he never thought he would consider. While the nurse collected samples from Priya for general tests, he discreetly secured a small portion of her material and later paired it with one of his own samples. He sent both to a private lab without telling anyone. The decision felt like a betrayal, yet he believed it was the only way to silence the fear that had been tormenting him for weeks. He convinced himself that once the results confirmed what he hoped, he would destroy the report and pretend none of this ever happened. The waiting period became unbearable. Days felt like weeks, and Arjun found himself unable to sleep properly. He replayed every moment of their relationship, searching for signs he might have overlooked. Priya continued preparing for the wedding with her usual energy, but Arjun saw shadows in her expressions he had never noticed before. Every smile looked forced, every gesture carried weight, and every silence felt suspicious. His mind created connections that might not have existed, twisting normal behavior into potential clues. As the wedding day approached, Arjun's inner world began to collapse. He tried to act normal during ceremonies, dancing with relatives, greeting guests, and posing for photos. But beneath the surface, a storm was building. He felt trapped between love, doubt. On the morning of the wedding, the world around Arjun appeared bright and celebratory. Yet inside he felt nothing but heavy dread. While relatives bustled through the house, placing decorations, adjusting outfits, and calling out final instructions, Arjun stood frozen with his phone in his hand. The awaited message from the private lab had finally arrived. His heart pounded as he opened the report, hoping for reassurance that would wash away every doubt he had been carrying. Instead, the words on the screen shattered him instantly. The DNA test confirmed that he was not the biological father of Priya's baby. The shock was so intense that he struggled to breathe. The hope he had clung to vanished, replaced by a cold and consuming sense of betrayal that wrapped tightly around his chest. Arjun locked himself in his room, staring blankly at the report. Every memory he had shared with Priya replayed in his mind like scenes from a film. but now each one felt distorted and meaningless. The trust he once held so firmly disintegrated within minutes. His thoughts spiraled rapidly, racing from confusion to humiliation to anger. He imagined the guests celebrating downstairs, unaware that his entire world had collapsed. The man who had spent years building a life based on integrity felt mocked by the universe. His dreams of becoming a father now felt like a cruel trick rather than a blessing. Meanwhile, Priya moved through the house with calm determination, unaware of the storm forming upstairs. She prepared for the ceremony, surrounded by women adjusting her jewelry and ensuring every detail was perfect. Her happiness, seen by everyone, only deepened Arjun's turmoil. He felt trapped between the life he had hoped for and the truth he believed he had uncovered. The contrast between the festive atmosphere and his internal breakdown grew sharper with every passing minute. As the wedding time approached, Arjun's emotions spiraled out of control. He felt deceived, cornered, and the wedding hall buzzed with energy as guests arrived dressed in bright colors, ready to witness what was meant to be a joyful union. Music played loudly, relatives laughed, and photographers moved around capturing every moment. No one sensed the darkness brewing beneath Arjun's calm exterior. He walked into the venue dressed as a groom, appearing composed and collected. To others, he looked like a man stepping into a new chapter of life. In reality, he carried a storm inside him that had grown uncontrollable since reading the DNA results. His movements felt mechanical, every step driven by anger and disbelief rather than excitement. Priya entered the hall shortly after, glowing in her wedding attire. Guests turned to admire her beauty, unaware of the tragic fate waiting just moments ahead. She searched for Arjun with gentle anticipation, believing they were about to begin a future built on love and trust. The distance between them closed slowly as she walked toward the stage. The atmosphere was filled with celebration, but Arjun saw none of it. His eyes were fixed solely on her, and his mind replayed the words from the DNA report again and again until they consumed every thought. The ceremony began, but Arjun's expression had shifted into something no one around him understood. He reached into his outfit and wrapped his hand around the concealed weapon he had brought. His pulse raced, fueled by a mixture of confusion, betrayal, and rage. The hall remained unaware, lost in the beauty of the moment. Guests clapped, children played near the aisles, and families watched with proud smiles. Priya stood before him, still hopeful, still unaware of the storm erupting inside the man she loved. Then everything collapsed in a single moment. Arjun raised the weapon, and the joyous noise of the wedding dissolved into screams and panic. People ducked for cover, chairs toppled over, decorations fell apart, and chaos spread faster than anyone could react. The sight of violence. The hall emptied within minutes as people scattered outside, trembling and crying, while others stood in shock, unable to process what had unfolded before their eyes. Emergency services arrived quickly, pushing through the crowd and securing the scene. Paramedics rushed inside, navigating through overturned chairs, shattered decorations, and abandoned belongings. Arjun stood motionless, surrendering without a word or attempt to escape. Officers handcuffed him and led him away as guests watched in disbelief. His expression remained vacant, as if his mind had already detached from reality. The man who had entered the venue as a groom now appeared hollow, stripped of every emotion except a faint, exhausted numbness. Investigators began their work immediately, questioning witnesses, collecting evidence, and trying to piece together the events leading to the tragedy. Priya's family was overcome with grief, torn between sorrow and anger. They struggled to make sense of how a celebration had transformed into a nightmare within seconds. Arjun's family, equally devastated, could not understand what had pushed him to such an extreme. They insisted he must have suffered an emotional breakdown, but their explanations offered little comfort to anyone involved. As more details emerged, authorities uncovered fragments of Priya's past relationships. Some people claimed she had been in love before moving to Canada, while others insisted the rumors had always been exaggerated. Yet nothing they found clearly pointed to the identity of the baby's real father. Priya had never spoken openly about her previous relationship, and the truth remained tangled in speculation and half-told stories. Arjun's relatives argued that he had been driven to madness by betrayal, but Priya's family believed he acted out of insecurity and possessiveness. Media outlets quickly took hold of the story, turning it into a nationwide topic. News anchors questioned Arjun's mental state, while talk shows debated. During the investigation, the anonymous email that had first planted doubt in Arjun's mind became a key focus. Officers traced digital footprints, server logs, and hidden accounts until they uncovered the sender's identity. It turned out to be a close friend of Priya's former partner, someone who had held a deep grudge long after Priya ended her past relationship. The message had not been intended to destroy Arjun, but was crafted to hurt Priya by disrupting her marriage. What the sender never expected was how violently the situation would spiral once the message reached someone as emotionally vulnerable as Arjun had become. As investigators continued digging, another twist emerged. The private laboratory that handled the DNA test admitted to a procedural irregularity. A mismatched sample had been used due to a labeling error during processing. The staff eventually sent a corrected report, and this time the results showed that Arjun was in fact the biological father of the baby. The revelation stunned the investigative team. The tragedy that had unfolded was built on a combination of manipulation, misinformation, and a devastating human mistake. What Arjun believed to be proof of betrayal had actually been the result of a technical error, amplified by the cruelty of an anonymous message. When the corrected results were presented, the families were left shattered. Priya's relatives were overwhelmed with heartbreak, realizing her life had been lost because of a misunderstanding she never had the chance to address. Arjun's family struggled between grief and disbelief, trying to reconcile the gentleman they once knew with the irreversible act he committed in a moment of distorted rage. Even the police officers working the case felt the weight of the tragedy, knowing that a single mistake had triggered a chain reaction that could never be undone. The case closed with a painful truth. No villain, no clear motive, just a collision of errors and unresolved emotions.